The last of the homeowners died in 2012. It was just old, outdated. So he's like, there's something we can do. Like we can get this lien thrown out. You can buy the property. We're good. So again, I did my work. I found the guy. He's currently still at a funeral home in New Mexico. I showed up to the house that day. The squatters had moved most of their belongings out, so I was excited. That was probably the best part about that day. It was like, all right, you guys got your stuff out. Yeah. Like, this is finally gonna be my property.
Hey, I'm Donald Payne Jr. and today I'm with Tiyona Sanders. I'm so excited that she's here with us today because today she's gonna tell you about a deal where she flipped and made $100,000 on one deal and helped a lot of people in the process. So today we're gonna review that opportunity and see how Tiyona is flipping Austin. So Tiyona, how long have you been doing like real estate investing in Texas now?
So I've been investing since 2018.
Okay, and so how many deals have you done so far, would you say?
I would say, so I've done 3 flips and about 5 wholesale.
Okay, so we've been kind of talking for a while, like, kind of give you some guidance and advice during your journey. But you've been working on one particular deal for, it seems like, about 2 years, is that right?
Absolutely. It has been 2 long years.
So what's kind of going on with this situation? So it's been 2 years you dealing with it. I'm kind of familiar with it, but I want you to get everybody else caught up on what's kind of going on and where it all started. So where did you get the deal, and how did that first beginning of the deal start transpiring, the court and all that other stuff?
So I came upon the deal just driving for dollars. Honestly, just driving home. It was off the street that I lived off of, boarded up house, abandoned for a while. Did my due diligence, looked into it, see what was going on. There was a lien on the home, and so I brought my real estate attorney into it, and he found out that the lien was outdated. There's a law in Texas that by statutes of limitations, if the property is not foreclosed on within 4 years, then it's kind of null and void. Like, you can't act on it after that. So because this lien was dated in 1998 and the last of the homeowners died in 2012, it was just old, outdated. So he's like, there's something we can do. Like we can get this lien thrown out. You can buy the property. We're good. I wish it was that easy. So we started to dig deep into it, reached out to the lien holders, found out that they sold the note 3 or 4 times. Tracked down the now owner of that lien, and just wanted to like settle it with them because it was an old lien, it was invalid. They wanted to fight it, went to court to then move it to federal court.
Jeez. Wow.
And during that process, so this was during COVID, so of course court is looking a lot different, it's all virtual. I reached out to my attorney and I'm like, look, can we just settle with them? I would rather give them a little bit of money and be done with it than to keep paying attorney fees, keep paying court fees, knowing that it's just going to keep getting dragged out. So we reached out and we're like, look, let's just settle. Took a couple emails back and forth, but they finally settled on a number that was a lot less than what they originally said the lien was for. I agreed to it. We closed up that chapter. Again, I wish that was the hard part. Yeah, it was. So let me kind of summarize a little bit what you said so far. So you drive for dollars, found a house close to where you live that was abandoned, got in contact with the previous owner's kids, which is the heirs. They agreed they wanted to sell the property and move on. You signed a contract with them. Then what happens next is you find out there's an old lien or mortgage or something on it that is now invalid because of the statute of limitations in Texas. And then you go to court a bunch of times to try to get them to remove that lien. They don't want to do it. They fight you. And then you go ahead and settle with them. Correct.
So that's where we're at. Okay. So what happens next?
So then dealing with the family and kind of dissecting that. So like you mentioned, I was in contact this entire 2 years with one of the heirs. all the corresponding, all the information I needed, I would just go through her. She would ask her siblings or try to help me figure it out. But there were 7 heirs. The husband had 2 kids, and the wife had 5 kids, both in different relationships. The husband's 2 kids have already passed.
Wow.
But one of them had 2 kids.
Wow. So this thing is getting deeper levels of heirs. Wow.
And the wife had 5 kids, and they're all pretty local to the area, so that helped a little bit. Like I told you, the 2 heirs on the dad's side that passed away, one of them died what I believe is called intestate, which means, without a will, no one claimed their body, like they passed away, and that's that. So when dealing with all of this, in Texas, if you don't probate, you don't have a will, you are able to do what's called an affidavit of heirship. And it's basically like a really fast way to probate, and it's a document stating that you are who you say you are. People sign off on it, and you knew the people that passed away. This is how you're related to them, and basically that allows you to then take over that property. So we did the affidavit of heirship with the heirs. We had to get 2 disinterested parties to sign off that all this information was correct, but all of that was complete. We could not find that guy that passed away. My attorney and his paralegal weren't doing the job. So I took matters into my own hands. I was calling morgues. I was calling funeral homes. I was not going to let this blow over. It was already a year in, and basically if we couldn't find this guy, the deal was
It's not going to work out.
not going to work out.
I think that's an important part of what you said, though, because I remember we had the conversation on the phone, and I think you were getting to this point where you were getting frustrated with the attorney and with the paralegal, and I said, well, T, this is a great deal. You're gonna have to put in a little more extra work. And I didn't know what that work exactly needed to be, but it sounded like you did it.
Yeah, it was.
So what happens next?
Man. And I guess to backtrack, originally the heir only wanted $25,000 for this house.
Okay.
And if you know anything about real estate in Austin, Texas, $25,000 is
an amazing deal.
Nothing.
Yeah.
But like I said, that was the original purchase price. So again, I did my work. I found the guy. He's currently still at a funeral home in New Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah. I got them to send me a death certificate to prove this, and that was a little back and forth with the county and everything else, but wow. I got it.
What an experience.
It was a learning process, man. So we were able to prove that guy. I had to then reach out to the other heir that had passed away. I had to reach out to her kids. I did that via Facebook.
Wow.
Got responses. They called, emailed me. I was able to correspond with them. That wasn't too bad.
Wow.
Yeah. And man, where do we go from there? We got like I said, we got the whole affidavit.
So everybody submitted, all the kids and everybody submitted their affidavits, and you got in touch with all these different heirs. How many total heirs are we talking about at this point?
So we're still talking 7, because there was 5 that were alive, the 2 that passed away, but then they had 2 kids. So I had to deal with the 5 that were alive and the 2 kids.
Okay, so 7 people total. Everybody has to submit an affidavit of heirship, pretty much.
So only the heir that I was in contact with had to submit the affidavit of heirship, but 2 disinterested parties had to sign off that all of it was true.
Okay, gotcha.
So then she had to find people, that were not family members that could attest to the information in it, stating that, her parents were who they were, they lived at this address, they died in this year.
Okay.
All of that good stuff.
Okay, and then everybody else had to sign off saying, hey, this is good to go.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going to probate court at this point.
So that just has to be filed with the county.
Okay.
We didn't have to touch court
okay.
with that whole thing. It's the underwriter looks over it,
mm-hmm.
At the title company. They make sure that it's all good, and then once he gives us the green light, my attorney filed it with the county,
mm-hmm.
and the house now belongs to the heirs.
Okay, so we do that. We're dealing with this lien. Boom, those two things are somewhat settled.
Somewhat settled.
What happens next?
So from there, squatters move into the house.
And this place has been vacant for at least 4 or 5 years?
Years.
Yeah.
Boarded up, condemned.
Up.
I mean, signs from the city liens due to the way that the property looked.
Wow.
And one day I drive by and I'm like, it's like a light is on and the boards are removed. So a couple days later, I actually go back. I knock on the door. A guy comes to the door. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you live here now or what? The guy then gives me this outrageous story about how the house was passed down to him. It was passed down through the church.
Wow.
He told me that he was spiritually related to the heirs.
Spiritually on drugs. Go ahead, though. Go ahead. Just saying, like.
And so just to confirm, I asked him, you were not blood related to anyone that owned this home? He said no, spiritually. That was all I needed. We exchanged information. I just let him know kind of what was going on. Like, I'm in the process of purchasing this house, so like at some point, like, you're gonna have to get out.
Get out.
There's no other way to put it. He exchanged contact information with me. We stayed in contact, but I knew there was a little more work to be done before I could actually get the house. So I just kind of let it go. I let my attorney know, and he said, we'll get there, once we finally sign all the papers, we'll evict him or do what we have to do. So he just kept living illegally. Then so I guess not everything was completely done with the lawsuit. We were still waiting on their attorney to sign off on the papers. I had to get all of the heirs to sign the settlement. So that was another process because the two kids that were heirs, they live in Houston. So, that all had to be notarized and sent back. And then, of course, it has a bunch of court verbiage and jargon, and everyone's kind of confused as to what's going on at this point. And so that gets, it takes a little bit of time, a couple months, just them figuring out what it is. The two heirs in Houston actually hired an attorney to read over it for them.
Sure.
So that took a little more time as well. Then the heir that I was in contact with, she didn't want to tell her brother and sisters until she knew that this was actually going to get done. Because she, they're older. She was like, I don't want to try to explain something to them that they're just not going to understand. And if it doesn't happen in a timely fashion, then they're going to jump down her throat.
Gotcha.
So she was like, I want to make sure that the two in Houston are okay with it and that this is going to happen before I then introduce all of this to my siblings.
Makes sense to me.
Which it made perfect sense, and to this day I understand why she did what she did.
I definitely get it.
So the ones in Houston, they took a while to get back to us. They hired their own attorney, but in the end they finally signed the paperwork, agreed to it. Then it came back to the asking price of the property. That was then a problem to them. They didn't actually come out and say it was a problem, but they were like, so what is this for? Like, how much money are we getting? Because, at the end of the day, that's the only reason everybody's signing the papers.
Sure, they will get paid.
They had never even been to the house or met their grandfather. It was just about money at that point. They then, asked for the purchase price and, all of the other things that their attorney was asking them to then ask my attorney. Months pass, they get it done. Then the heir I'm in contact with, she goes and has these tough conversations with her siblings.
Wow.
That resulted in, of course, more questions, more this, more that, but another problem. Her brother was now in an assisted living home. The assisted living home was very, very difficult to work with. And it was one of those homes, Donald, I hate to say it, but just hope that your kids one day do not put you in a place like this.
And you said it's like a prison?
Oh yeah, it was like a prison.
This is during COVID.
This is during COVID, so they're not letting people in. It's barbed wire. I mean, just
wow.
like, yeah.
So you're not getting out of that place either. I mean,
it was not a good look. So they weren't very cooperative. We could never actually speak to the man, and so we were trying to contact his 2 daughters. One of the daughters wanted nothing to do with him. She told me like good luck, but she's not involved with that side of her family.
Wow,
I could do nothing but respect it. The other daughter, she took a while to get back to me, but she did, and again, pretty money motivated.
Okay.
But she told me she had power of attorney.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, if you got power of attorney, you can sign these papers and we can close this out.
Yeah.
Well, again, we mentioned drugs, and they're bad.
There's a lot of people involved in drugs in this situation.
They're awful.
Yeah.
I went to get the papers notarized. I met her for the first time in person. I showed up and she had blue hair and no teeth.
Ooh. No teeth?
No teeth, nothing, and not that much older than I am.
Okay, that's crazy. Seriously.
It was awful.
Wait, you're telling me
she's like 32.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So it was not a good look. I think even the people at the bank were looking at us like, "Are you sure this is?" The guy he kept looking at me like, "Is this legal? Are you sure?"
Yeah.
And come to find out, she had just gotten the power of attorney, whereas she told her aunt, the one I was in contact with, that she had it months ago.
Man,
that's okay.
The question is, why did she even have it? But that's different.
You know,
well,
that's different. That's for another day.
Later. Yeah.
So she was able to sign the papers. She did tell me that she was hesitant at first because people in her family were telling her that we were getting these papers done so that her dad would not get any money. And I think, again, back to the jargon and the things that were used and these settlement documents, that if you're just, I don't know, an ordinary person, you're not in real estate, you don't do this type of work, you would have no idea what any of it meant.
Mm-hmm.
And so that just shows that it was very misconstrued.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, she agreed. She
Mm-hmm.
signed the papers. We were able to keep it moving. And then we went back to the squatter situation.
And so we're at 18 months out of the 2 years at this point.
Oh yeah.
So we're at 18 out of 24 months. You got the dealing with all the heirs and many different caveat situations there. You got the situation with the lien holder, trying to get rid of that. And you got squatters moved into the property. And if you don't know anything about squatters, is that when what a squatter is somebody goes and moves into a house that they don't own, they don't have a lease on or anything like that. In most states, there's a thing called squatters' rights. Whereas, at least I live in the state of Ohio, in that state, you have to actually evict that person as if they were a tenant. So, Texas, it might be similar, but she's gonna tell you what happens next.
So, I revisit the squatters. Knocked on the house that will belong to me, and just kind of let them know again, like, look, this is coming to a close, and again, this is my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I did at the time. I offered them. I want to say it was $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
He rebutted and asked for $10,000.
He working it. He moved in that house just to get a check.
Just to get a check
so he could blow it.
And clearly it just seemed like it wasn't his first rodeo. So
oh, definitely not.
I'm like, look, no, that's not even in question.
Yeah.
Like, I'll help you move, I'll do whatever it is that you need, but giving you that much money for a house that you're illegally living in and I've already paid 10 times that and other fees, like, no.
No way.
He'd cut the whole spiritual act at that point.
Oh, I'm sure. There's no spirituality to that anymore, was there? It was all business.
There was no church at that point. And he made it like he understood. I realized that, just let me know, give me some type of notice. So
he definitely, listen, these people are professional.
Oh, yeah.
The more you told me about this, definitely professional.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going along with it. I'm weary, but at the same time, my attorney would not act on it until we were completely done with it. And I wanted it to kind of be like a simultaneous thing. Like, I wanted it to be like they're out the same day I acquire the property.
Yeah.
So I was trying to move, a little ahead of what my attorney had in mind.
And again, we're at 18 out of 24 months. And you said something deep. You said you were getting weary, you getting tired. Let's talk about that a little more. Because I remember these phone calls, and just saying, hey, Don, like, yo, like,
what do I do?
Yeah, what do I do with this situation and this situation and that? And I give you ideas. Now, you oftentimes had the answers, knew some of the answers. I just gave you little nudges here and there, but like, I understand being tired.
I was exhausted, Donna. And I guess I didn't
And
preface
she had a
with,
wedding going on. She had to do. I just had her son. She's married, and then dealing with this on top of this, and working. Go ahead, though.
Because investing is not right now my full-time job. So
Coming soon.
so I have, like you said, I have all these things going on. I was actually 9 months pregnant when I got the house under contract.
Woo.
So at this point, I have a full-blown 1-year-old. I've got, like all these other things going on. And like you said, there were days where I was like, I'm over this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so done. Like, this is exhausting. I don't know where to go. I thought about firing my attorney.
Which we talked about that. And I mean, I think I told you, like, hey, go talk to a few other attorneys and see what they say. And what did they tell you?
So I did. I talked to a couple attorneys, and one of them advised me to stick with them. I gave them kind of the rundown. I said, what was going on, where we were at with it. And they were like, I just advise you stay with them and stay on them. Like, the more you contact them, the more you, like, keep reaching out, then, the more diligent they'll be. Mm-hmm. So I took that and I ran with it, and I did just that. I probably was very annoying because every other day I was like, all right, did you do this? Did you send this? Because, like I said, I was tired, exhausted, and money don't grow in trees.
No, it don't. No, it don't.
So yeah, I mean, fast forward, I'm seeing a light at the end of the tunnel.
You're real close.
I remember talking to you. I'm like, I think it's there.
Yeah.
Like it's right there. We only have this left.
So let's talk about that. So we're at 23 out of 24 months. This is like a couple weeks ago we were talking.
A couple weeks ago.
So tell me what happened. Let's talk about what happened a couple weeks ago, where you were at. What was the situation at that point?
So at that point, we had to revamp the contracts, which I had amended a million times because no one thought it was going to be 2 years long. But we went back to the drawing table. My attorney let me know that the asking price had to be higher than all of the fees that have,
the attorney's fees, the liens,
taxes,
the taxes, the money that the heirs wanted.
All of it.
So where did that number end up being?
So that number ended up going from 25 to 150.
That's quite a jump.
So then, of course, on my end, it was, all right, funding. Like, that's a little different. Like, 25 out of pocket, cool. 150, like, I don't just have it sitting on the back burner.
I understand.
So, but like I said, that encompassed everything. Mm-hmm. So, after paying off that lien, after attorney fees, taxes, a city lien, the rest of that was split between the 7 heirs. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, they didn't really receive that much. On top of the fact that they had to split it 50-50 based off of like whatever side of the family they were on. Mm-hmm. So the 2 heirs that had nothing to do with this, never met the grandpa, never been to that house, split theirs 50-50 and got $17,000 each.
That's a great day for them.
That's a great day for never having known any of this.
Jeez.
Well, the 5 heirs, including the one, that has helped me through this whole process, everything, had to split their 50 5 ways, sorry.
Dang.
So each of them only ended up with, I want to say it was like $7,100.
I mean, it's still money they was never going to get. I mean, it was 2 years of headache and keep hearing about the situation.
But only one lady with the headache. The rest didn't even, they knew, and then 2 weeks later, they were receiving a check. So again, it was money that
they never was going to get
didn't work for, yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, they're probably pretty happy.
Yeah.
I say everybody's pretty happy.
You get a check and you get to keep going with life, right?
Yeah,
so,
you get to close that chapter.
Mm-hmm. And that, you know what, I will say, that is the most important thing, and that was the one thing the heir told me when I first sat down with her was, I want to close all of this. I want closure for myself, for my family, this house, my parents that have now passed on, you know? And she was like, we just for years received different things.
Letters.
Mortgage holders and
code violations.
Yep.
And keep hearing about it and keep getting reminded of your parents' death.
And all they knew is, I don't have enough money to pay all this stuff off.
Yep. And now the chapter's closed and their life got so much better because somebody decided to get involved. And see, that's the thing, like, people don't realize, like, and And you're gonna hear it in this story. Tiyona made some great money on this deal, but she also helped a lot of people in the process. And when you help people, you always make money, so one way or the other. I've done deals where I actually didn't physically make money off that deal, but doing deals further with that person, I made a lot more money. So it's one of those things where you take the value of helping people, you always get where you want to go. I think Zig Ziglar said, you help enough people get where they want to go, you're gonna get to where you want to go. So Tiyona, let's talk more about it. Like, let's get into the nitty gritty. I mean, I know you had some closing day drama. I want to hear about that. I also want to hear about the money. Talk to us about how the numbers shake out.
Yeah. So closing day is finally here. It's almost like unreal. Like, yeah. I think my husband asked me, like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, to be honest, like, I don't know.
Is it really gonna happen?
Yeah, like, is it really gonna happen?
Really
and
happen?
I mean, that's how that date went.
Oh yeah.
Woke up that morning and I knew that the power of attorney that I mentioned earlier that is on drugs, she was our wild card.
Yep.
And my attorney, you know, we had been texting, calling back and forth in that whole week leading up to this, and he was like, if I can just get her there and I can, you know, be in control of that, I feel like we'll be good. Mm-hmm. But that was the issue. It was like, where's she at now? Where is she? I mean, the week before she told me she was in a whole different part of Texas, mm-hmm. and she was living with her grandmother. And then before that she was in, you know, it was just a different story after different story.
I'm sure.
So the night before I told her, I said, look, my attorney said he'll come pick you up. Can you just send us an address? He'll pick you up. We just need to get you to closing. On top of that, the title company lets us know that they have this new policy where if there's a power of attorney, they have to speak to the principal holder, mm-hmm. and make sure that they haven't revoked their power of attorney the day of. Mm-hmm. So again, go back to that nursing home that is sort of like a prison, and we have to ask this guy, are you sure that you still give this or allow this power of attorney to be in effect?
And to me, that policy is really interesting because, like, what if the person's not mentally coherent?
Yes, that's the question. Like, that's the reason people get power of attorneys, right?
That's what I would think.
So I guess what I was told was they were burned in a situation where the power of attorney was revoked, but they didn't know, and they went through with closing, and then realized it after, and had to then like freeze that person's bank account and get the money back.
Yeah, which is wow.
And it was probably ugly. So yeah. Now that's how they do it. But in this case, like I said, we had never actually been in the assisted living home, so we couldn't even tell you if this man was incoherent or not.
Yeah.
It was everything was so up in the air when it came to this. So my attorney's like, if I can pick her up and I can go to this assisted living home, and then we can ask him, you know, like, is this still okay? Can we sign on this deal? We can get it over with.
And this is the same attorney that you had all that drama with at the beginning, right?
Yes. So same one, stuck with him.
But it sounded to me like at the end, he turned into a G.
He did, which was wild because, you know, when money is on the line, people do different things, and I'm sure he wanted to close this chapter out.
Oh, I'm sure he wanted to
just as bad as I did.
Yeah.
So, and you know, he gets paid too. So at the end, it was text after text till 10 o'clock at night, and he was trying to get it done.
He was motivated.
He was motivated.
Okay, so talk to us about what happened.
And that morning, he reaches out to me. Have you heard from her? I tried calling her, I tried texting, Facebooking. We did a lot of conversation on Facebook Messenger. Nothing. Mm. Her phone's going to voicemail. Nothing. So at about noon, she sends me a voice memo and lets me know that she's just now waking up. And her closing time was supposed to be 11:30. So that's okay because
at least she hit you back. At least she hit you back.
At least she hit me back.
At least she hit you back.
And also the title company had reached out in between then, and they had to make a couple corrections, and the people in Houston had already signed the day before, but they had to make a couple corrections on the deed, and then they had to send a notary for them to sign again. Mm-hmm. So of course stuff's still going on. She hit me back. She let me know that she was awake, and my attorney at this point, he's like, I'm gonna go to the nursing home, mm-hmm. like, or assisted living, whatever it was. And he just said, you know, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna try my luck because I can't sit there all day hoping that she's gonna like show up there. So my attorney goes there, has to jump through some hoops, get in there. He had to show documents, who he was, what this settlement was, because mm-hmm. apparently on that day, that same guy had, like, one of the heirs had come in to try to get him to revoke the power of attorney. Another lawyer had come in trying to talk to him, and I want to say it was like an ex-wife or something, they said.
Wow.
So on this, they told my attorney that
she's got to get a piece of the change.
This man had been in that assisted living home for 3 years, Donald, and nobody came to visit him.
Wow.
On this day, 4 different people show up. So they have red flags, and they already were pretty sketchy.
Tough.
Yeah. Like my attorney had tried having this conversation over the phone days prior, and they would just keep hanging up on him and just avoiding him, and never, he never got through. So he just went. So once he jumped through those hoops, explained who he was, what was going on, and told them, look, I'm trying to give him money. I'm not trying to take anything from him. Was able to sit down, explain the whole situation. I actually showed up to the house that day. The squatters had moved most of their belongings out, so I was excited. That was probably the best part about that day. It was like, all right,
that.
You guys got your stuff out.
Yeah.
Like, this is finally going to be my property. And I'm also still in communication with the power of attorney. She told me that she was at the doctor's office getting blood drawn. She told me that...
Sound like she was shooting up. Excuse me.
5 minutes before that, told me that she was waiting on her friend to get back from the store so she could then give me the address. But then it turned out she was at the doctor's office. But then that's neither here nor there, Donald. She was just not cooperating at the time. But she did tell me she could meet at the title company and get her portion signed, and gave me a time. I want to say it was like 4 o'clock. Mind you, title company closes at 5.
Yeah.
So
we're down this road, buddy.
Man. So once I realized the squatters, they're out of the house. Cool. My husband and I, we go in, we change the locks. We're feeling good about it. So I then go to the title company to sign. I sign everything I need. My attorney calls me like, can you stay there and wait for her to get there?
Absolutely.
Like, I just want to make sure this gets done. I'm like, whatever it takes.
I have to, yeah.
And mind you, before that, the 4 other heirs that are in town, they were at the office, they signed. Of course, they were having their doubts too. They were calling me.
Am I going to get a check?
Am I going to get my money? Also, where's the other person, which was the power of attorney, who...
Is she going to show up?
Yeah, like, is she going to show up? Is she actually going to do this? Then come to find out, one of those heirs left closing and went to that nursing home and told her brother not to let her sign on his behalf, because at the end of the day,
they knew she was going to take the money or something.
They didn't want her to have that money.
She's on drugs or something.
Yep. So my attorney calls the title company, to follow up with their policy as far as, asking the principal of the power of attorney if he still is okay with her being the power of attorney. So, man, this is where it all could have ended, Donald.
Come on. I already know. Talk about it.
We're sitting around. It's my husband, me, the lady from the title company, and my attorney's on the phone. He calls. He says, I'm sitting here with... Am I allowed to say names?
Sure.
I'm sitting here with Gary, and the lady from the title company goes, hi, how are you doing? Like, is this Gary? He says, yes, it is. She says, okay, I'm just calling to make sure that you have not revoked your power of attorney with your daughter. Donald, this man, he says, no, she doesn't have power of attorney. She steals all of my money. When I tell you everybody's heart skipped a beat, I'm talking like nobody said anything. Like complete silence. Like, where do we go from here? Because clearly he doesn't know about this. Or maybe he did. I don't know. Like I told you, I didn't know if he was incoherent. I don't know if he had dementia. Yeah. Like, I don't know. He said no. So my attorney then goes, well, that's not the answer we were expecting. Gary, so you were going to receive the money. Alicia is just signing on your behalf as your power of attorney.
Great.
And he goes, oh, okay. So then Amanda at the title company then goes, all right, is this Gary? He says yes. She then asks again, is this power of attorney still valid? And he then says, yes, it is. Mm-hmm. We all look at each other. She says thank you, hangs up the phone. She's got it recorded. We're good to go. Mm-hmm. That was a scary moment. We're like, this whole 2-year process.
At the closing table.
At the closing table.
What did God at the closing table? So then the other lady.
So we're waiting on her. We're still there. It's 5 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock. Title company is closed, and
wow.
I'm sitting there. I'm at this point. I'm making myself comfortable. I'm waiting on her. So
how long is the title company willing to wait though?
You know what? They were very understanding.
Okay.
I will say. So, lady at the front, she just let me know when she gets here, and they didn't give me any trouble with it.
Okay.
I'm very thankful for that. So, she calls me. She lets me know she's about 10 minutes out. Calls again. Lets me know she's still 10 minutes out.
It's 6 o'clock. She's 10 minutes out. Forever.
Forever. But she shows up, Donald. She shows up.
Thank you. You know who you are. We thank you for showing up.
We thank you. She showed up.
Wow.
She came in, signed the papers. I did have to preface the lady that was doing the signing. I'm like, please just don't mention anything about money. Like, just have her sign the papers. Let her know her rights. I'm not saying hide anything from her, but we'll figure out.
Keep it very general. Very basic.
So she signs all the papers. My husband and I, we stay. We're staying until she walks out of that room.
Yeah.
She walked out.
You had to babysit this whole deal.
This whole deal. I had to babysit every moving part.
Yeah, and that's sometimes what it takes.
Every moving part. So she signs. She gets her stuff. She leaves without a question. I get in the car. My attorney calls me. He's like, "Did we do it? Is this over?" I'm like, "It's fine. Everyone's signed. We're all good." He's letting me know just, kind of on his end what he had to go through, and we're laughing about it. It all comes to an end. At the end of the day, I know you want the nitty gritty. I closed on it for $150.
Okay.
I do not want this property, Donald.
You don't want it?
I don't want it.
And I've tried to convince her to keep it, rehab it, whatever. But then I guess that does elongate the profits. So she's going to wholesale it.
I am. So, again, I told you funding was all kinds of messed up. So I went to actually a colleague of ours, and I'm like, look, I got this deal. I just need the transactional funding. I'm going to close on it in less than a couple of weeks. I need the money for now. I kind of let him know the situation. He was on board. We settled on a number, and he got it closed the next day. So I'm very thankful again. And you talked about the importance of networking and just knowing, how you have those people that, if it makes sense, they'll get it done. So he closed on it for me. I am set to close tomorrow on the back end with my buyer. The only clause they had was they did not want, it was under contract, but they did not want their inspection period to start until the squatters were out of the house.
Which the squatters left, right?
They left. They did. They're still lingering, but they left. So we were allowed to start that option period, that inspection period, the day after I closed on it. Mm-hmm. So they were able to get their contractors in, get everything figured out. But of course, they ran into an issue with plumbing. There is a septic system. The house is pretty old, and they then came back to me and were like, this was an hour before their inspection period was over. Mind you, they had 5 days.
They're trying to renegotiate.
Oh yeah, trying to renegotiate. They asked for me to come down $20,000.
Please tell me you told them no. You never called me about this.
I didn't tell you about this. I told them no.
And so you had to tell them.
And I signed the termination of contract.
Yeah. Get out of my face. You're just trying to negotiate.
At this point,
you're getting a great deal. Get out of my face.
Yeah. So, and that even took a while. I know, and I'm learning, but I got to put my emotions to the side, and it's not about that. So, of course, at first I'm thinking this is gonna cost. My husband's like,
there we go.
Go on
Justin,
somewhere.
Come on, man. You the man. Tell her no. Tell her no.
He's like, if you do this, more people will walk all over you. Like,
Woo.
no. So I did. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm rolling with it. I signed the termination contract, sent it back over, because she kind of gave me that option. Either we go down or we can just terminate the contract.
Yeah.
So I sent that over, and I immediately started marketing it to my other buyers. I had, I'd say at least 10 people come the next day, check out the property. I had a couple offers within hours. And then of course I'm at the property, my buyer calls back. Actually, we slept on it, we thought about it, and we would actually like to then go
Move
through
forward.
with it and
Did you-
keep the same closing date.
Did you get an offer higher than them when you had a second walkthrough?
I did get one 5,000 more.
Okay. That's not.
But at the end of the day, in the terms of my transactional funding,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been that much more because of
The fees.
the
Yeah.
fees.
End of the day, you just needed to close it out.
Yeah, and
So-
I needed that closing date to remain the same because
Yeah.
my funding only went until the day after that.
I do gotta admit though, you did play that pretty smooth though, about hitting them with termination and then getting a walkthrough with new buyers. That was
It was all within 12 hours.
Textbook. That was perfect. Continue.
And I don't know. I mean, most people that are watching probably don't know much about the Austin, Texas market, but it's wild. I'm talking a blade of grass out there is $100. Like it's just people want anything. So I knew that would never be the issue.
Exactly.
Getting someone to purchase the home, it was just I just needed things to line up and
quick. And all that California money and all the Californians moving to Austin, I mean, it kind of makes sense, right now what's going on there. So you close tomorrow, and by the time you guys see this video, she'd have closed, she'd got her money, and you're gonna see right after this clip, you're gonna see a video of her at that closing, and you guys are really gonna enjoy that because she gets that check, right? So we're gonna have that video. She's gonna take that. Her and Justin are gonna take that for us, and so cool. But so you buy it for $150.
bought it from.
Get transactional funding. You pay some fees on that.
I paid $6,000.
$6,000. And what do you sell it for?
I'm selling it for $255.
$255. And so, in the day after your title fees, paying your attorneys, spending 24 months, 2 years on this deal.
To this day, it was under contract October 7th, 2019.
Wow.
I closed on October 6th, 2021.
Wow. And she closes and finally gets her money October 19th, or is that October 20th?
October 19th, yeah.
So, how much money is that at the end of the day?
At the end of the day, it's a little over $100,000.
Come on. After 2 years of working on something. And that took a lot of faith. And, even me and T talked today about, she even talked about the amount of money she made. And I told her that, number one, I personally don't always like to do it, but you have to for many reasons. Tell the story behind it, tell the why, but also too, you need to inspire others to put in the work. Because when the harder the deal, the more likely somebody's not going to willing to do the work to get that deal closed, to get that deal to the closing table. Those are definitely the juiciest spreads. So, I mean, all in all, I mean, this is a beautiful deal. I'm really excited for you and Justin, even where you guys are going next with your career and investing, because that's an amazing deal.
It is, and you know what? It's worth it. And I keep asking myself, would I do it all over again, knowing now what I know? And my biggest takeaway, I'd say, is the knowledge.
Yeah, the knowledge. Woo.
You can't pay for it.
You can't pay for it.
You can't pay for it. I felt like through the process, I was a paralegal. I felt I felt like a real estate agent. I felt like a detective.
Come on.
I mean, I inserted myself in their family.
Yes.
I was as empathetic as I could ever be, just to get these things. I mean, it was, yeah. I don't know. I feel like I would not have learned this. I don't think there's a class, a networking. I don't know that you could sit anywhere and get this firsthand information that I've learned. So
I think the biggest thing that you did is you sought counsel through it, and you kept going. That was all your own determination. We talked about this earlier about some of our mutual friends. Like, people want us to invest with us. It's like, yo, I don't want to do it for you, but I'll give you guidance through it. Right? And I think that's what it comes down to when it comes down to coaching somebody. It's like, I'll give you guidance, but you got to put in the work. You did all the work, and you're going to get the great reward from it. I'm really excited for you. So, I mean, would you do it again?
I would.
Yeah.
I would. I actually, about a year or so into it, I came across another deal pretty similar.
Yeah.
It actually fell through.
Yeah.
I didn't, get to see it through. I didn't reap the benefits of that one, but
you knew how to deal with it.
I knew how to deal with it. I went directly. I mean, I got an affidavit of heirship done in 2 days.
Come on, you knew. See, now you know it. Now you know it.
I got that done. I was, I was on top of things, and then I also had references, right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times
you have your team built.
Yeah.
You might even work with that attorney again. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. but you might work with this title company again, or you got it built.
And even just like personal references, right? Like a lot of people and families, if you're in the wholesaling business, you know, a lot of times you're reaching out to these people blindly. They don't know about real estate. They don't know about all these laws and things like that. And so the one person that I've been in contact with over these 2 years, like she's like, if someone wants to call and ask, you know, just as a reference, as just to vouch who I am and the things I've helped her achieve and things like that, like she's totally for it. So I appreciate her for trusting me, because at the end of the day, I was just a random person calling her asking for her parents' property, right? And actually, we talked about driving for dollars. It was driving for dollars, but then it was also mailers. I actually mailed them directly a letter, and they then called me and were like, hey, we see this, we got it from you, if you want it. It's a little messy, but you can have it.
Wow.
So it was using a little bit of, you know, like
everything.
A little bit of everything.
And you didn't even spend much on the marketing. You just spent a little time. Come on. So all in all, it's very much a people's business. It can provide great rewards and great opportunities, but staying motivated through all is tough.
That's tough.
So,
That's tough.
Tiyona, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.